Peter Obi, the Labour Party's presidential candidate, has condemned the Nigerian authorities' harassment of journalists, citing the recent disappearance of the detention of whistleblower PIDOM Nigeria. Obi warned that Nigeria risks becoming a banana republic where journalists are silenced or disappear for doing their job. He called for the Freedom of Information Bill to be passed and emphasized the importance of press freedom in holding those in power accountable.
Peter Obi's statement comes after PIDOM Nigeria was reportedly arrested for allegedly leaking classified documents and cyber-related offences. Pro-democracy activist Omoyele Sowore also demanded PIDOM's immediate release, fearing harm if not secured. The incident is part of a larger trend of government agents suppressing information and harassing investigative journalists in Nigeria. Joining us is human rights lawyer Mojirayo Ogunlana. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Morning. Thank you for having me this morning.
All right. Let's first of all get your broad view on the current situation with regards to PIDOM Nigeria, amongst, of course, many other cases that have occurred in the last long while.
Okay, so I think if you're talking about journalists, one of the persistent things the persistent statements I've been making is that it seems that in this generation, the lives of journalists are at risk. It seems that journalism is becoming how do you put this, a precarious profession that is likely to go into extinction. And the reason is simple. You have a democratic country or a democratic society in paper or in the books, but in actual fact, we see situation where it's hard for journalists who are the fourth estate of the realm and who have been charged and have the responsibility, clearly written by the Constitution for them to hold government accountable on behalf of the public, because it says in the public interest, hold government accountable. That is what journalism is all about. Unfortunately, we see situations where journalists are harassed and intimidated. One of such journalists in Abuja was covering the End Bad Governance protest, and he was harassed and he was even detained, his phone collected, his camera destroyed in the process. And this is consistent with what we have seen since the APC government. Maybe that's how I'm going to put it, because I'm saying from the period of Buhari now till now, it has been a consistent thing that we have been seeing, that there is a target or a deliberate attempt to shut out journalism or the media from Nigeria. And this is very, very sad. And then we have seen also, and I think I mentioned this the last time, I'm not sure, where Daniel Ojukwu was kidnapped. Practically, if not that we were able to get the information that Daniel Ojukwu was abducted from his location, then it would have been one of those missing persons that you will now start looking for him, like the way we did look for Jones Abiri in 2016, and then they brought him 2 years and 6 months to the courts. So we have seen this situation when we do not shine light on the problems. You would just find out that that particular human being, that particular journalist, just how do I put it, just gets missing or is absent from circulation, and that is what we have seen so far. And that is
why do you think that is?
About the case.
Yeah, and you pointed out
we have a state of impunity in Nigeria. Every arm of government is practically, should I say, under siege by a few. Now, for instance, we saw a report that came out that the judiciary is the most corrupt institution or the arm of government, and that is very sad. It is sad because ordinarily the judiciary should be able to check the excesses of the executive and the legislative. And it is simple. When we get judgment, for instance, in court, you will find out that, especially when it is against government institution, you find out that you cannot even enforce those judgments. And I have several cases like that. whereby the judgments are cast aside. For a client, I have been writing the Federal Ministry of Justice, writing the Office of the Attorney General for 2 good years now, and there has never been any response. Not one letter to say we have even received your letter for the enforcement of the judgment of this court. Nothing. They just it is consistent. So you have the position of the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice, and you see that the intricacies of what it means to do justice, it seems that it is lacking in that particular parasite or the particular institution. Otherwise, why is it? So I'm looking at it, I'm linking it that failure now emboldens the law enforcement or emboldens the executive to keep violating the rights of Nigerians because really they know that there is no one that is going to hold them responsible.
Now that you've mentioned the judiciary, let's talk about law for a bit. The NBA conference has been going on. I reckon that yesterday was on bad. I hope that you've been attending the conference. But away from that, the president
attended the conference.
Sorry?
Thank you.
You didn't attend?
No, I'm here. I'm attending the conference.
Okay,
actually.
Brilliant. The president, through the vice president, in his speech, said that he's assuring Nigerians that the current administration, that his administration, that's the president Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, will continue to promote the rule of law, separation of powers, and dissent within the bounds of law. With what you've seen so far about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration so far, you've talked about journalists and how the media as a fourth estate of the realm is being targeted. Would you say that you believe these promises, these statements made on the stage and on the platform of the Nigerian Bar Association, and how should lawyers, be able to hold the government to account in this situation if you don't believe that?
Okay, so it's going to be very hard for me to believe when politicians speak. Why? Because it's a different thing if you're saying something, and it's a different thing when you are acting out something contrary to what you've said. So this case in question, this PIDOM arrest, for instance, is antithetical to the tenets of democracy. And unfortunately, we have a system of law or criminal justice system that has also, allowed that. And I think lawyers, we need to start talking about the Administration of Criminal Justice Act that is allowing the police to apply or obtain remand orders that for 56 days. If you look at 14 days, if you compile the 14, it comes to 56 days. We need to change that aspect of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, if it is possible, because we need to align with the Constitution in Section 35, which says that it is either you detain someone for 24 hours or 48 hours, depending on the kilometers of reaching an available court. Now, if we stick by what the Constitution is saying, you would not find the audacity of the police detaining an alleged offender, for instance. That is somebody who the Constitution regards as innocent, until proven guilty. And then you keep the person for 56 days, and there is no reparation. There is no compensation for the time that you're being kept in detention. 2, they go to get remand orders pending investigation. This is absolutely wrong. You are supposed to do your investigation, complete your investigation, and then go after the culprits. That is the appropriate thing to do. Not that you detain someone or you give unreasonable bail conditions just because you want to keep the person frustrated. And it's unfortunate, that is happening to the media. So I think it is high time that we looked really critically at the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, and in fact remove that option that gives the magistrate the right to grant remand orders. I'm talking from experience. My litigation clerk was in an apartment with some friends where a governor's lodge, and someone came in there and stole 40 televisions, and they packed every one of them. And I will tell you this, the Mabushi police station, the policemen there in Abuja, they tortured my litigation clerk. They tortured him, it gave him marks. At some point, he was limping. And when I got to that station, I said, I am aware that my litigation clerk is here. I want to have access to him. They said, oh, madam, go and see the IPO. And I went to the IPO's office. Next thing I am told, oh, madam, are you here for, I said, yes, I'm here for him. And well, we have a remand order against him. You can go to court to file fundamental rights action. Can you imagine the audacity, the kind of the boldness in which a policeman is talking to a lawyer that, okay, you cannot do anything now, go to court. We know that before you get your case assigned, before you get your case heard, or even after the decision is made, we would have done what we want to do. That is terrible. That is impunity. Lawyers we need to is not somebody coming to your meeting and talking, and we have no way to challenge them.
Yeah.
And this has happened before. This is history repeating itself. When they come to our meetings, they talk. Buhari came to our meeting in 2018, told us that national security will be taken as priority over the rule of law. That was in fact, that was the most annoying situation I've ever thought about. That nobody could stand up in that particular conference and say, sorry, even in a state of emergency, the rule of law must prevail.
All right, Mojirayo, hold on. I mean, we can see that you're really fired up, concerning these issues, and I totally understand. A lot of people, feel the same way. We just spoke, when we started the show about a person who, of course, was in prison for 10 months without, any actual case, awaiting trial. Of course, he eventually was rescued. But I want to talk about the PIDOM case. Now, Peter Obi, of course, has referred to the recent actions by the APC government as leading Nigeria into a banana republic situation. PIDOM, of course, is allegedly being charged, or reportedly being charged with leaking classified documents and cyber-related offenses. Do you think that these should be criminalized, or do you interpret this as their only way to silence a person who was doing, according to him, journalistic work? All right. I think we have, faulty connection there with Mojirayo Ogunlana.
Okay, so I've had the opportunity to see the kinds of revelations.
Please go ahead.
Okay, I said I have had the opportunity to read tweets that have come from that particular handle, and there have been quite some revelation. And there's something that I've always known, that is a very, very cogent defense to the issues of maybe defamation. When you come up with criminal defamation, for instance, or even in civil defamation, one thing that comes out as a proper defense is truth. There are others, but let's talk about truth. Now, what I am very, very what I'm very surprised about is that if you know that somebody is giving truth as information that are truthful, and they are information that Nigerians should have, why would you now claim that the person is trying to undermine the country? When you know that as public officers, you owe Nigerians the truth, number one, and then you owe them accountability and transparency. Now, transparency is already missing from government, and the only way we have been able to get it is through journalism and through the beautiful work of the media. Now, when you now arrest someone that has been known over a while for giving Nigerians the accurate information that helps us to hold government accountable, there is no two way of looking at it. It is just it's exactly what it looks like. It was targeted, and it is also a means to shut down that voice. And that is what it is. So there is no other way of describing it. And so when you public perception, and people like us, or people in the ordinary man on the streets, would be able to say, "Oh, government doesn't want to be accountable to us. They don't want to be transparent. So that is why they have done that." So that already causes disaffection. Now, to the international community, what you tell them is this: that you are undemocratic, that you are going into a
Still a quick struggle with the connection there, but of course the conversation is all about the recent arrest of a person handling the account of PIDOM Nigeria in River State, Port Harcourt, and of course reaction to that arrest by the Labour Party's presidential candidate Peter Obi.
And there are many areas to look at in that conversation where we're talking about his arrest and now him being charged to court, of course, because David Hunde, investigative journalist, shone the light on this situation. There are some arguments that you can't say you're charging him to court now because, first of all, the mode of his arrest was illegal. You cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. The reports about his arrest talked about these men in mufti picking him up, not dressed, there wasn't a warrant of any sort. They picked him up, they threw him into solitary confinement. They chained him for 6 days. The inhuman treatment that was meted out to him is not one that is in any way, shape, or form approved by our constitution. That level of torture is not approved, is not allowed. So the fact that, the latest report we're seeing by PIDOM Nigeria is that he has an injury on his index finger that isn't healing. The way that he has been treated, first of all, brings up a lot of questions. Our respect for human rights, our respect for the law, the process of the law. It talks about as well the speed or the accuracy with which they were able to locate him, the technology that was employed to be able to locate him, and why that technology has not been employed to locate terrorists, to locate the hiding Yahaya Bello, and all the others. But bringing it back to PIDOM Nigeria, is whistleblowing a crime? If somebody lets out information that quote unquote embarrasses you, the defense to defamation, if you feel like you're being defamed, the defense to defamation is truth. You have the choice to go to the court and show that what they're saying is not the truth. And if you can prove that what they have said is not the truth, then you have a case in law. Yeah. But if what they're saying is the truth, you do not have a case.
Again, it seems that security agencies in Nigeria believe that their role is in protection of the higher echelon individuals. They are not necessarily protect law and order.
Right.
And that's why when Fisayo Sheyombo, if you remember, went on his 2 or 3 week rundown on his revelations, investigative revelations on Nigeria Customs Service, there was no response. But of course, he instead was invited. Same thing with, of course, when Daniel Ojukwu was arrested. Mojirayo Ogunlana, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry about the connection there. But you could quickly go on. I want us to, also, speak about, I was just talking about Fisayo Sheyombo and the response that the Nigerian government had to his investigative revelations on the Nigerian Customs Service. We've had many of them like that. The idea the expectation when Nigerians see investigative journalistic work is to immediately tell the journalists to go and hide, instead of expecting a government, crackdown on the revelations that, of course, have been exposed. So, tell us a little bit about that, and why you think that is.
Okay, so I've been representing journalists for a while, and I can say from I was trying to say authoritarian before the network went off. So I want to link it to the kind of situation in the Togo, for instance, and the rule of Eyadame. The Togo has gotten to a point where the civic space is completely repressed. Now you see situations where Togo citizens, they find it hard to actually demonstrate. That one is existing. And Eyadame is more like an inheritance for him to be in government. Now let's now link it all the way to Yahya Jammeh of the Gambia before he was removed from office. Yahya Jammeh, he had a book, and I think that this particular government it seems that they are running with the same book, where journalists were killed, not killed, murdered, where journalists were removed from circulation. We saw a situation where journalists were going on exile. And one of the cases that I was able to, to participate in was the Federation of African Journalists against the government of the Gambia. And I have seen this happen in West Africa, and I see, unfortunately, that it is happening now in Nigeria, because if a journalist has made cogent, revelations, what I would expect my government that has, sworn to protect my interests, what I will see is that the government will do more investigation in that aspect of the revelation, and then make sure that the people that are found wanting are, corrected, or, charge them to court or do something. Let it be seen. But when you have a system that allows someone like what's this man's name, Yaya Bello, to be at large, but that same system is able to identify and hold behind bars a journalist, because the journalist doesn't have the kind of funds that someone can use in, disappearing within the system. It shows that there is inequality. And it brings us back to George Orwell's Animal Farm, that some are more equal than the others. But apart from the fact that some are more equal than the others, we see a situation where government wants to do what they want to do, and they want everybody to keep quiet. But the last time, if we checked the definition of democracy, we know that democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So it means that the power resides with the people. And so people like Fisayo Shiyombo, people like David Undeyin, people like PIDOM also have the duty, because this is their profession, they have the duty to represent the people against the few that we elected into office, who should be accountable to us, who should be answerable to us.
So it's a pitiable situation, and I've continued to mention that that's what it seems to be. Security agencies seem to be protecting those in office, instead of protecting law and order in the country. But we're out of time. It's a sad situation. We'll, of course, continue to follow up with the PIDOM case and see, how it develops. Thank you very much for joining us, Mojirayo Ogunlana, and for your time this morning. We'll see you again. All right.